First of all,
this is the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
It might be cool, I don't know. And if it's not, I don't care.
The BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Bill Simmons works for ESPN. He's also named the sports guy, and he writes a comical sports column. He must be a popular dude.
The BS Report.
It's got a real dirty sound, like a rusty steak knife cutting through a well-aged steak.
Now.
Here's Bill Simmons.
Week 5 of the NFL season coming up. As always, our friend Cousin Sal is going to join us. He picked the Week 5 lines earlier and kept track of them, and now he's going to read them to me. I'm going to pick them. We go head-to-head, and the loser pays for the winner and a few friends at the end of the year at Fogo de Chao. Right, Sal? That's what we said.
Yeah, that's right. The funny thing is, between now and January, I'll probably have gone there 9 times, so it won't really matter.
We're all winners.
Yeah, everybody wins.
How are you recovering from your sports apocalypse on Sunday?
Yeah, I guess not everyone wins. That was awful. With the Mets, just the most clutch pitching performance I can remember in like 25 years out of a Met hurler, and all for nothing Saturday and as Sunday. They took it on the chin again to the Marlins, and but it gets easier, right? And you have to let me know. This all gets easier. Like when Aaron Boone hit the home run, you were probably just so numb by then. It doesn't really matter as much, does it?
You've had some hits between the Cowboys and the Mets. You've taken like 5 stomach punch losses, basically.
Yeah.
Actually, more than that when you include some of the ones, like the one the other night. What was the one? Wednesday night?
Which the Met loss, you mean?
Yeah, the awful loss where David Wright struck out with the guy in third and no outs. Whatever.
Nobody out. They pitched to Wright and they still didn't score there.
Yeah, that was terrible. Did you read that they think he's pressing too much?
Pressing what? Bench pressing?
No, they think Buster Olney had something that Wright cares too much in these big moments. It means so much to him that he almost can't handle it.
Well, it's hard because you listen to the other guys interviewed, and they just don't seem to care at all. So if you care even a little, you care too much these days. But,
well, that's why Manny, I think, is the greatest example of that.
Yeah, you're right.
Manny feels no pressure because he doesn't feel anything.
Yeah,
he just
David
goes out
being
there.
David just doesn't sound the same, though.
Nah.
If he were to change his way. But,
I really thought maybe you turned it around after Johan wrote on the chalkboard, "Time to be a man." Goes out, pitches the 3-hitter. I thought that would inspire them, but
I know.
Apparently not.
It's just me. It's too many good things were happening to me. I won a professional wrestling match in June. I won an Emmy last week. I tricked Jeffrey Ross in front of 21 million people into thinking he was staying on the show when he was really leaving.
Yeah.
And so the karma gods caught up to me with the Mets and then the Cowboys.
The Jeff Ross thing was your finest accomplishment.
I just think that it played out in front of so many people, even though they weren't aware of what was going on. It was it was spectacular, and he won't speak to me still. So
yeah, of all the horrible things you've done, you'll never have a bigger audience.
Yeah, I don't know if people know, but Jeff, I didn't even know, but I assumed he was getting voted out, and I texted him and said, because I work for ABC, he thinks that maybe I knew something. I texted him and said, "No, don't worry, buddy. You're sticking around. I have inside information." He said, "Are you sure?" I said, "Positive." And then he said everything but effing Sal when they announced that he was getting off the air. I mean, you saw his jaw dropped.
Yeah, it was the definition of shell-shocked.
Yeah, spectacular.
It really was. I urge everyone to YouTube. Is it on YouTube?
I think it might be on YouTube now, or it's at least on ABC.com. But this guy got a combined score of a 12 the night before. I hate to say it, but he's got a national Q rating of 0. I mean, I love the guy, but to be shocked and to believe me, I don't know.
What's more astonishing is that he believed you after 10 solid years of you tormenting him. Doing everything you could to make him miserable, and then he believed you.
I think he needed to believe it. He needed to believe it because there was no way in his mind he was going home. So
I'm going to say that his career wasn't really helped by Dancing with the Stars.
Well, we'll see.
Getting scratched in the cornea, wearing an eye patch, and getting voted off in 48 hours. I don't think there was the boost maybe he was looking for. All right, let's hit the Week 5 lines. I gotta say, I was on fire last week with picks.
The lines?
No, with picks. I went like 8-5 on my column, but know, 2 of the games I lost was the Carson Palmer exit stage right, which I never would have picked them if it was Fitzpatrick. And then I had the Eagles, And then Westbrook doesn't play. I never would have picked them. I would have taken the points. So I feel like I have a nice feel of the league right now. So
all right, good. Yeah. And you beat me in an epic fantasy battle, 69-66 last night. So maybe it keeps going.
What's the opposite of epic?
Let me just say this, but because I had Derek Mason and I needed 17 points to beat you last night.
Yes, you
and
did.
He had 13. He didn't quite do it. But what kind of psychology is it that I also bet the under? And I had dozens of dollars. You know how I bet. I had literally dozens of dollars on the under 34.5. And yet when it's 20-13, I have all this money on the under. All I want is for Derek Mason to score a touchdown so I could beat
that's
you.
interesting.
How does that work? It's crazy. Maybe if my bookie were text messaging me every 3 minutes, like you did, taunting me about the game, it would be different. But
I wasn't taunting you. I was saying that I was going to quit the league if Derek Mason got 17 fantasy points for the first time in his life.
I know. Well, that's taunting. I'm like, wow, I can get Simmons to quit the league. I really have to pay attention now.
I'm going to get voted out anyway. It's all headed toward me getting voted out. I mean, I'm the logical target.
I don't think so. We have a thing where the winner of the league has to vote someone out, and that's been fun.
I'm the logical target. I know it's going to be me. I'm not showing up to Kimmel's enough. That's the real problem. But let's get to the Week 5 lines.
All right, KC at Carolina.
I'm not remotely sold on KC.
No, I don't.
That might have even been their one win this year.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain they go back to sucking this week.
Although Carolina lost a couple offensive linemen. I don't know who they were, but I just saw that across the scroll, and I didn't know how big that was. But I'm going to say Carolina by 10.5.
All right, I said, well, you get that. I said 9, and it's 10 as of this morning.
Do we believe the Larry Johnson comeback, or was that a one-time thing?
I think Denver has an awful run defense.
Yeah,
if you look
terrible.
at their games, but I like that Herm Edwards is finally catching on to what we figured out after watching 20 minutes of Hard Knocks 2 years ago, that Damon Heward's their best option, but he just figured that out. So.
Well, I didn't realize he was going to play in Week 3, and I didn't. Yeah, he's at least semi-confident, whereas the other guy is a train wreck. But Denver and that defense maybe will not be favored by that many ever again.
Yeah, San Diego at Miami.
Not sure what to make of this Miami team. Man, San Diego, one of the great late covers of all time last weekend, right?
Yeah, really.
Tomlinson. I'm going to say San Diego by 9.
I get that. I said 8.5. It's 7. It's only 7.
Oh.
Good teaser game, right?
Yeah, the teasers have been losing this year, though. Mainly because we're not doing the tease of the week.
I know. We have to announce it.
Let's do that at the end.
All right. I think I'm going to say, I don't know what kind of odds I would get on this. I say LT throws for a touchdown this week against the Dolphins.
Well, what if you had a bet where it could be any running back throws for a touchdown?
Interesting.
Then you get the Ronnie Brown involved, too.
Right. But I think they
good.
stick it to Tony Sperano and then their week off. But
yeah.
Chicago at Detroit.
Very lucky win by Chicago last week.
Yeah, it was.
They do not win that game with Brian Westbrook on the field. Does the Matt Millen thing, just having him gone, does that factor in at all here?
That is huge in my book. No,
I mean,
the
fans will be the fans will be excited though, whereas before they were rooting at.
You think? Maybe this is a trap game. Maybe.
I'm gonna say Chicago by 6.
Oh yeah, so you had it too high. It's 3.5. I had it at 2. Yeah, maybe that's a trap game that we stay away from.
Detroit's terrible.
Yeah, Seattle at the Giants.
Wow, the Giants just them and Buffalo, the two easiest schedules this year.
No Plex because this is how cocky this team is now. They suspended him for not calling back when he missed practice. Cincinnati get a bonus for not going to practice.
Yeah, Plex, I think he swings the line a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Giants by 7.5.
All right, you get that. I said 6. It's 7.
Okay.
7 on those. If the NFC West can win an out-of-division game, please, let it be this already. Atlanta at Green Bay, there's no line because of, we're doing this Tuesday. I think Rodgers says he wants to play, but there's no line right now.
I thought he had a sprained shoulder, not a separated one.
But he's been throwing left-handed all week, so I think.
Well, how do we guess a line that doesn't have a line?
I guess just for fun, and we won't count this.
So it's Atlanta at Green Bay?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say Rodgers plays, and I'm going to say Packers by 8.
That's what I said. All right, good. So it would have been a wash.
Would have been a tie anyway.
Yep. Speaking of wash Redskins at Philly. Good game.
Wow, the two best teams in the NFC East.
Stop it.
Come on.
Now. But honestly, didn't we both think the Redskins would have 4 wins after that first Thursday night game against the Giants? I mean, what gives with this team?
They have gotten better each week. They kept talking about that during the game, but it is true. They each week have made a little climb up.
It doesn't look like Zorn's going to kill them either as a head coach.
Maybe not. I really thought he was going to, but that was a weird game though. Like your team, you know, if you're going to beat Dallas, I think that's the way to do it. You just hold on to the ball for a ridiculously long amount of time, and Dallas offense never gets in rhythm, and then all of a sudden it's midway through the fourth quarter and they're losing.
Yep. Yeah, we have trouble, the Cowboys, against like smaller running backs who catch screen passes, and if you have a good tight end, that's always been our downfall. But
I actually picked the Redskins last week because I looked up like their last 5 years of matchups, and for some reason those games are always close. No matter the talent levels of the two teams doesn't seem to matter.
Well, I mean, here's the problem, though. Let me just say, like T.O., they only targeted him 19 times because he ran the ball. But I mean, if you traditionally look at the Cowboys' big games, they occur when T.O. gets no fewer than 32, 33 receptions a game. I mean, that guy needs to get the ball more.
I thought you were going the other way. I thought you were going to say when he doesn't get a lot of touches, it's usually better for them.
Well, it certainly did work week 2. Well,
do you get enough touches right now, you think?
Do I?
Yeah, you get enough touches in general in life?
Yeah. I don't need any more than 0. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Philly at Washington.
Washington at Philly.
Washington at Philly. I'm going to say no Westbrook?
I think he's going to try to play, but we don't really know. But that there's a line makes me think that he's going to play.
Is there a reason why the Eagles never QB sneak with McNabb? Is it like it's in his contract? He's not allowed to do a QB sneak?
Yeah, one of those 4 plays probably could have been him.
I'm going to say Eagles by 4.5.
All right, we tie because I said 6.5 and it's 5.5.
Ah, the old Vegas has no idea line.
Yeah. Is that a teaser game? Yeah, maybe not.
That's a stay away. I don't know what to make of that Skins team.
Yeah. All right, Tennessee at Baltimore.
Oh, I love this Tennessee team. Love them.
They can be 6-0. They're at Baltimore and then at Kansas City before.
You know what? And I'm fine with it. That's a good team. Like they play defense better than anybody plays defense.
I just hate watching them.
They really by the end of that game, Farrat was they almost had to carry him out just from all the hits he took.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say Tennessee by 3.5.
All right, I hit this exact. It's 3. So, and the over/under is also 3. So if you take Baltimore and the under, the final score is 0-0. You're sitting pretty.
How did Ray Lewis get better this year?
Who?
Ray Lewis. How is he better this year?
I know. He's all over the place.
I think he should have to pee in a cup, and they should televise the results live on ESPN2 because I thought that guy was completely washed up.
That's disgusting. You should have been on the Man Show. Thoughts like that. Indy at Houston.
I'm going to say that Houston is the undervalued team right now because they really could have beaten Tennessee. If a couple plays went their way, they definitely could have won last week. I mean, that was one of the. I don't know how you give up the 4th and 8 scramble, right. But I don't think Vegas is valuing them correctly. I'm going to say Indy by 3.
Wait a minute. First of all, that's exactly right. Indy by 3, but wouldn't that Vegas be giving them way too much props there? I mean, I had Indy by 7 there.
I'm saying I think that game should either be a pick'em or Houston should be favored.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah. I think those teams are. I even think Houston might be a slight bit better.
A rested Colts team who basically has to really start winning these games. They really can't drop to 1-3. Houston considered benching their quarterback last week, and
they never considered it. The guy was great last week. I think he's good. I think Slayton's good.
Game.
If you had to bet your life on it, you'd bet on the Colts.
I just think they have to start winning now.
But maybe it's not going to happen for them. Yeah. I tried to make that point in a column last week. I think sometimes with these teams, you talk yourself in and, they'll get it together, and then all of a sudden it's week 14 and they're 4-9.
Yeah, well, we'll know this week if they're 1-3.
We'll know this week. I like Houston.
Tampa Bay at Denver.
That's an interesting game.
Trade for Ernest Graham if you're in a fantasy league, and then send him back because Denver's defense.
I think that NFC South is really good.
Yeah,
the NFC South, NFC East, and Tennessee, that's really it. That's the heart of the league right now. I'm going to say...
I agree, and I think San Diego catches up in there somewhere. So.
At some point, yeah. Right now, they don't seem to have it totally together yet.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say Denver by 4.
All right, I was way off in this. I said 7, and it's 3. So you got that one.
Tampa's good. I mean, they can do just about everything.
Yeah, this is a trap game. If you like Denver, just be careful, I think. All right, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 1, 2, 3, 4. You're up 5-4, including.
Yeah, have some of that.
New England at San Francisco. Have some of this. What do you think?
I think I like the fact that they could not block for J.T. O'Sullivan against the Saints.
Yeah.
That makes me feel good about the Pats matchup. I'm
going to say this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's week 5, and your team only has 2 wins. All right? I mean, you could blame the bye week. You could blame maybe Brady going down, but you only have 2 wins, and it's week 5. So
I got to say, I've been a Patriot fan for my entire life, dating back to as soon as I could start remembering anything in the early mid-'70s, and I don't ever remember them playing in San Francisco. I'm sure it's happened, but I just never, I can't remember this matchup. I feel like we never played Steve Young or Montana, and we probably did. Maybe they got just murdered, and I blocked it out of my mind. Well, I'm going to say Pats by 6.
Oh, no. Well, I said by 4, and it's 3.
Oh,
Talk about undervalued.
Oh, my Lord. Really?
Well, it's
Pats
not
by
like during your bye week you went out and scouted new quarterbacks. I mean, really, what are you doing here?
But didn't they see what happened? I mean, the Saints couldn't even block. I mean, the Niners couldn't even block the Saints front 7.
Yeah. All right.
That's
well, is that a teaser game for you?
Let me just say, if the Pats don't cover by 3, I think the season's over.
That's what I feel about Indianapolis. Yeah.
I will say Frank Gore is kind of not the most ideal matchup for the Pats.
He's scary. Well, you have to figure out what kind of defense you really have first. That's the weird part of it.
A slow one?
Cincinnati at Dallas. There's no line on this because of Fitzpatrick or Palmer. I don't know who's starting. But so I guess we could just guess for fun.
At this point, wow, I just really stuttered. I think that Fitzpatrick Palmer thing is just too significant. Why don't we guess with both guys?
Well, Palmer wants to play.
I would hope so after what we saw last week.
Well, I think this is one he should sit out. I mean, it's not like his quarterback rating is going to go up. I mean, this Cowboys team is upset. This is, they're going to. It's like when King Kong Bundy would ask for a 5 count. I think that's what the Cowboys are going to do to Cincinnati this week. They're really upset. I said 15.5 either way. I'm
going to say with Fitzpatrick, it's 16.5. And with Palmer, it's an even 14.
All right. Well, the Giants gave him 13 a couple weeks ago, but
yeah.
All right. We'll just jot that down. All right. So we're tied 5-5 going into 3 remaining games. Buffalo at Arizona.
Well, if you had Kurt Warner on your fantasy team right now, what would you do?
What do you mean? I'd be happy. I think. Right?
You would? You don't think he's benched in about 2 weeks?
No, I don't think so.
That was the worst fantasy number anybody's ever put up.
What was
deceiving. He put up 28 points, most deceiving 28 of all time.
Yeah.
He just murdered them in that game. He was terrible.
I think you just have to throw that game out. That was just a mess of a game.
I kind of like Trent Edwards. I'm really talking myself into him.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say this is the dreaded. Buffalo by 1.5.
All right. See, I said Arizona by 3. Oh, who gets this? Oh, I barely get this because it's Arizona by 1.
And I said Buffalo. Yeah, you do get it.
I barely get it, and I love Arizona here. I love them.
Even with Anquan Bolden.
Well, I think they rally for him. What if you're a defensive back for Arizona though, and you're talking to your grandkids about the time the great Brett Favre passed for 6 touchdowns against you?
Yeah, you'd be kind of excited about it.
Yeah, and they're like, well, was that the year he won the Super Bowl? No, that was in 2008. He had retired 6 times already, and he was playing out the string for the Jets. But
Did we ever figure out why they went for 2 when they were up 54-31 with 2 minutes left?
No, I don't.
Is there any valid explanation for that?
Mangini's a little lost, I think.
We got to get up by 21 here. There's 2 minutes left.
Yeah. All right, so I'm up by 1, 2 games left. Pittsburgh at Jacksonville.
I'm going to have to nail this exactly, and I'm going to.
You might.
Jacksonville by 5.
All right, you get it anyway. I said 5.5. It's 4. And I don't know. I've watched these teams play 8 games. I have no idea what to expect from them.
Mendenhall's out for the year now.
He's out for the year. Kendall Simmons is out for the year, the right guard for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, my brother.
But how do they win when Roethlisberger's on the run every single play? I don't understand it.
That was one of the flukiest losses I think I've ever seen. Like, they get this lucky 38-yard touchdown to Holmes where the guy dives to try to intercept it, misses it, and then he bounces off 2 guys. Right. And then 2 plays later, the weird Flacco fumble touchdown. I've never seen a game turn that fast.
Right, I know.
I was sitting there thinking Baltimore's going to win this game by 14 points.
I don't know what to think, really, with Pittsburgh. They could win that division, they go 6-10. All right, it's 6-6, final game, Minnesota at New Orleans. This is it, and I'll tell you in advance, I was off by 1 point, so there's a little room for you. But I think you can get this.
I'm going to say New Orleans by 3.
Oh, you son of a... New Orleans by 3 is right.
Yeah!
So you win the week. Which
Have
I think
some
now,
of that.
It's 2-2-1 now, right, after 5 weeks?
Wait, let's do our teaser sponsored by Fuse.
All right, the teaser
soft drink.
All right, I'm going to say San Diego to barely beat Miami and Jacksonville to beat Pittsburgh. I think that's my teaser.
So you're swinging those teams down to just about even.
Right.
Who does San Diego play? Miami. I don't trust North Turner. Even that Raiders game, I felt like they were going to lose. You know what? I'm gonna go unconventional. Instead of a tease, I'm gonna do a New England money line parlay and a Houston parlay.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm gonna go that direction.
Wow.
I'm gonna do the Houston Pats parlay, which I probably get like 9 to 5 odds on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we may have to bet that Houston Indy game against each other because I don't know. I don't know football. If that's a Houston win.
Hey, one last thing.
Yeah.
You get the NFL Network, right?
Sure. Yeah.
They showed from 1994 Kansas City Chiefs, Denver Broncos Monday night.
Mm-hmm.
Montana Elway. Do you remember this game?
Yeah, a little bit. Wait a minute. What happened? Was Tamarick Vanover? No, that wasn't the one, right?
This was the one where Elway scored the apparent game-winning touchdown, drove them down, and then Montana came back and drove the Chiefs down, and they scored.
Yeah.
And there's like 2 fumbles in the final 3 minutes. Awesome game.
Yeah. You want to pick a line for it?
No. Oh. I do think that would be fun, though, to watch one of these NFL Network games, and if we both swear that, something to do this summer, if we both swear that we can't remember who won, we set a line for it and just watch it.
Corolla said something like that. Corolla said that. Actually, I think Damashek might have done a bit with that on the air. There, we'll have to check. He'll be out.
I've always wanted to do. I always thought with the ESPN Classic games. I think I wrote this once on you. You just watch the USFL games, set the line beforehand, and just do it.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
But that's not why I'm telling you this. Your coach on the sidelines for that, Mr. Wade Phillips for Denver.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, and if you think he has the deer in the headlights look now when things go wrong, you should have seen him in 1994.
Yeah.
Montana just ripped his heart out. But I thought of you. Yeah, I thought of you since it's your coach.
All right. He's going to be. We're going to have 12 or 13 wins. Look, I really don't mind losing a little bit. So that's
you're going to have 13.
Important games in December, so we don't. We show up in January. But
I agree. You want to peak. You want to start peaking around November 1st, 2nd, 3rd.
Exactly.
Any last thing? Any baseball predictions?
I'm going to say the Rays over the Brewers in a boring World Series. It sets record low ratings.
Rays Brewers. Wow.
What do you think?
I think Fox does everything they can to prevent that.
That hasn't worked in the past with some of these matchups, but yeah.
I'm going to say. Well, I definitely think the Dodgers are going to make it. I just have no doubt.
Really?
Yeah, I just think it's. I'm already locked them in.
Mm-hmm. Against your Red Sox, no?
No, it's not going to be the Red Sox. I actually think it's going to be Tampa, as crazy as that sounds.
Yeah.
Tampa, Dodgers.
I think they're built nice, and they may actually have some fans in that venue watching them this time. So.
Who would the Mets have played if they made it?
If the Mets had made the wild card, they would have played the Cubs.
I don't know if you would have beaten the Cubs.
No, of course not. But
although, could you have pitched Johan twice?
Well,
you probably could have, right?
Yeah. He would have to do 3 days rest again a couple times, but yeah. But I mean, my day, everyone's like, oh, they had no bullpen, they would have won. Like, once you get to the playoffs, it doesn't really matter, right? Haven't we seen some colossal collapses by teams who were great in the regular season and just didn't do anything, and vice versa?
It is true, but I can't remember a team winning the World Series that had a bullpen as bad as the Mets.
No, I'm hanging up now.
I'll just say it. I'll
Bye.
talk to you later. All right, bye. Since Shea Stadium basically died last week, I think we could say it died, right? It's not going to live anymore. One of my best friends in life, Gus Ramsey, longtime ESPN producer, longtime Mets fan. I wanted to have him come on and reflect about his thoughts on the Mets season and Shea Stadium. Gus, how you doing?
Hi, Bill. How's it going?
It's weird to talk to you on this since we talk on the real phone a lot. How you feeling after Sunday? That had to have been, when you throw in the collapse of the season followed by the celebration of Shea Stadium, one of the 10 weirdest sporting sequences maybe ever.
Well, it's funny. The closing ceremonies for me were like a cleansing. I mean, when that happened, there were so many great things that happened there that I was glad that it happened the way it happened. I mean, obviously I wanted them to win the game, but to have it happen after that loss, it made a lot of the pain go away. And I've had a lot of people say, to me, why did they do it after the game? It didn't make any sense. But I mean, almost all the time these things happen after the game. The Tigers, the Orioles, all those came after the game. The Yankees was before the game because it was a night game. Otherwise, they were going to do it at 1 o'clock in the morning. When you schedule this 6 months in advance, you're not thinking, oh, God, what if it comes down to the last game of the year again and if we lose? Plus, if you do it before the game, you have to get all those people in the stands prior to the game. After the game, everybody's already in their seats. Now, people got up and left. I can't blame them. I wouldn't have, but I understand why people did. But for me, it just, all that good made all the bad go away, and I'm well over it.
Some people couldn't leave because they were slumped against their seats after what they had just witnessed.
Yeah, some people couldn't get up.
Some people literally just couldn't get up, so they watched ceremonies.
That's one of the curses of working at ESPN, because this just doesn't happen anywhere else in the country. Everyone here knows, for the most part, who your favorite teams are.
Right.
So, as you know, when something good or bad happens to your team from time to time, you'll get a, hey, sorry, or hey, congratulations kind of thing. But when you work here, the next day it's like you had a death in the family. And people are coming up and putting their arms around you, asking you if you're okay, and you can't get away from it. It's all around me. Every television in our network, in our buildings here, is on. All the radio stations, everything we do has some remembrance of Sunday in it. So while I don't listen to the local radio, I don't read the newspapers afterwards because it's all just too much negativity, I can't get away from it. So I
noticed when in 2003 when I was working for Jimmy's show, after the Boone home run the next day at work, and we had so many Red Sox fans, and then everybody else knew we were Red Sox fans, and by about 4 o'clock I asked Jimmy if I could go home, and I did. I couldn't take it anymore. It was like being at a funeral that just would not end. And then finally I was like, I just got to go home. This is just terrible. It's tough.
That part makes it hard. It's nice that people care. Couple that with the way the Broncos played against the Chiefs, and people were shocked that I was even at work on Monday.
Yeah, that was a tough combo. Sal had that too. He had the Mets and he had the Cowboys.
And the Cowboys,
Redskins. Yeah, bad combo.
Yeah, but the ceremonies were so great. There were so many neat things. I mean, Gooden hadn't been back since he played with the Yankees, so that was nice. The Seaver and Piazza last pitch was pretty cool.
Jim Strawberry?
Strawberry was there, yep. And he and Doc had a nice handshake out near second base, which was kind of neat the first time. I've seen them in public together, and I don't know how long.
Yeah.
Since they were both, I think they were both on the Yankees in the late 90s or 2000. But so there was a lot of cool stuff. And for someone who grew up going to that stadium, it's one of the few places where everybody in my family had no problem going together. And we have 6 kids in my family, and anytime Dad said, hey, who wants to go to the game, it could be any combination of the 6 of us, but we had so many great memories there that, someone said it's a dump, but it's our dump. And it's a very personal thing. So to have them ended kind of in a nice way really put a lot of the pain away.
I actually like Shea Stadium more than Yankee Stadium. I feel like maybe I wouldn't have said that if we hadn't won the World Series in 2004, because it would still be that place where the Buckner game happened. But I just thought it was a more fun stadium to go to. It was easier to get in and out of. It was more of a dump, but like kind of lovable. You know what I mean? It was a place you just went. You could always get tickets usually, as long as the Mets weren't like insanely good. And you just went there and you had a few drinks, ate some food, saw a baseball game, and you left.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately it's a ballpark, and I'm sure the next place is going to be great. It's going to be weird to walk into a new place next year. But to me, a ballpark is a real personal place, and so when it's the first one that you know, regardless of where it is or what it is, it's still your ballpark, and you can look past all the warts. And for me, I'm not going to sit around and reminisce about the diamond vision, or them growing plants out in the bullpen. I'm going to reminisce about the things that I saw happen there and the people that I was there with. I mean, you and me and my father went to the first Red Sox-Mets interleague game.
And almost saw a no-hitter.
And Carl Leverett destroyed the catcher at the plate, and but that was, my dad flew all the way from California for that, and that was a great event.
I thought the Shea Stadium thing was a little bigger than Yankee Stadium because, as I discussed last week with Jack O, Yankee Stadium was gutted and renovated for 2 years and built into another ballpark. It was not the same place that Ruth and Gehrig and all those guys played in. Shea Stadium, I don't think, did they do anything in 40 years, 50 years? What did they do?
There are some minor things, but there was never a major renovation. That's for sure.
It was the same structure. And also you had that whole Jets angle thrown in there, which people always forget, that the Jets had a lot of, I wouldn't say good years, but they had some years.
They won an AFL championship there.
Did they play there in the 60s?
They beat the Raiders,
you're right.
In that stadium.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then you had 2 World Series titles happen there. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
You know what else happened there?
OJ went over 2,000 yards there.
You know what else happened? Underrated? The Bruno Sammartino, Larry Zbyszko 1-hour revenge match in the late 70s.
That one didn't make the list of the top 10 Mets moments on.
What an outrage. I think that was the biggest gate for a wrestling event until WrestleMania 3 at the Silverdome.
Yeah, the Beatles was 7, but WrestleMania, the Zbyszko match didn't make the top 10.
You remember when Zbyszko turned on Sammartino?
Yes.
That was one of the defining moments of our childhoods. Like it was really one of the first real big wrestling, I can't believe that happened turns that they have all the time now. And he really, I think he made a mistake when he hit him with the steel chair. Because he really, there was blood everywhere. It was most blood, I think, ever in any sort of a wrestling attack. And then they settled the feud at Shea Stadium in front of about, 60,000 people. How many people could they fit for those?
Oh, yeah. 60? Well, yeah, there's 55 for a baseball game, 56 for a baseball game. So you put people on the field, you can get more in there, yeah.
I miss Shea Stadium. I'm gonna say it. And I think it's traumatic to lose your baseball stadium if you're a fan. I know, there were years when I was just hoping Fenway would just get torn down. But it was basically because they weren't taking care of it. And, things culminated in 2000. The place was such a dump. And the owners, they didn't even – I went to one day-night – I wrote about this in the book, but went to one day-night doubleheader where they didn't even pick up the trash, on the floor between the day game and the night game. So you showed up in your seats and there's somebody's leftover popcorn and pizza. It was disgusting. And now I think they've breathed some life into the stadium. Now I think I would be very sad if it ever got torn down.
Yeah, and I don't doubt for a second that people are in Philadelphia don't love their new stadium, and I don't, I'm sure they still miss the vet, but it's a huge upgrade. Pittsburgh is a beautiful ballpark, and a huge upgrade.
Well, what do we know about the new Shea Stadium? Because I know almost too much about the new Yankee Stadium and nothing about the new Shea Stadium.
The dimensions are going to be pretty much the same. There will be an apple. I think the last I heard was that they're not taking the old apple, but putting a new one up, that was a big cry in the beginning. There wasn't going to be an apple, but now they're doing one. It's smaller, like the new Yankee Stadium. I think it's going to seat 45,000 people, instead of 55. It seems to be the new thing to try and create a demand for the tickets, by making less of them available.
That's like a Red Sox approach.
Yeah. When times are tough, the ballpark will look a little fuller.
Yeah.
I guess the thing that's the most, it's controversial, but it's been kind of discussed a lot is, the owners were big Brooklyn Dodgers fans. So there's the outside is going to look like Ebbets Field, and there's a Jackie Robinson rotunda, and I believe there's going to be a Jackie Robinson statue put up there, and it's almost too much of an homage to the Dodgers as opposed to the Mets. To me, if you're going to build a new stadium, there better be a Tom Seaver statue out there somewhere.
Well, your dad's a good example. when the Dodgers left, most people, they just refused to go to the other teams in New York, and then when the Mets came along, they jumped to the Mets.
Yeah, most older Mets fans were National League Dodgers or Giants fans and just refused to jump to the Yankees and waited around, and then they got baseball, and so they became Mets fans. So I get the whole Dodgers and Giants connection thing, but the Mets have been around since 1962.
Yeah.
And Tom Seaver is our Hall of Famer. So it's nice that they want to do all those things, but at some point you still have to recognize that the Mets have won world championships. The Mets have won one more world championship than the Brooklyn Dodgers did. So that's kind of being bandied about a little bit as, maybe it's a little too over the top Dodgers.
Yeah, it was too much of a separation between the two teams. I mean, I get that it appeals to anybody your dad's age, but does anybody under 40 even know that the Dodgers,
Right. No, but ultimately it's a beautiful looking park. I mean, the rotunda, the outside, it's fantastic looking, and it's going to be a great place to go. And but the planes are still going to fly nearby, and it's still going to be. They're going to have to do a lot in the surrounding area, to clean that up, which I think that the city will have to invest the money into to make it kind of a when you get done with the ballpark, there's things outside the ballpark. There's restaurants and places to go, like at Fenway and Wrigley. But right now, outside of Shea, you get in your car and you go home. You get on the train and you go home.
Yeah, Fenway has a huge advantage there. They've built up the whole area around the stadium so that you can show up at 4:00 for a 7:30 game and you're fine with it. I don't know what you do at these Yankee Stadium or Shea. Hey, I'm going to give you my top 3 moments that I personally had at Shea Stadium. Actually, top 4, and then you give me the top 5. But one caveat, your top 5 can't include anything that happened in the 86 World Series, just for my own sanity.
Okay.
All right, thank
fair.
you. All right, in no particular order. Darryl Strawberry, I think it was, I want to say Game 3 of the National League Championship Series in 1986. My Uncle Ricky took me. It was the game where you were down by like 6-0, you rallied back. I think Dykstra had the game-winning hit. Was that Game 3?
Game 3, they were down 4-0. It's funny you mentioned that. On MLB.com, you can buy radio broadcasts from old games. So I bought some, and one of them was that game. I've been listening to it this week. It's the CBS radio called Brent Musburger and Johnny Bench.
Ooh.
And they were down. Darling was bad early. They were down 4-0. That's the game Dykstra hit the walk-off homer.
Bob Knepper?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So during that game, you're down. Straw comes up. And this was, 1986 Straw. People forget this guy was going to be the Black Mickey Mantle. It was this guy that we had heard about for years. He finally came up. He started cracking home runs, and everybody just accepted that he was going to be the next biggest baseball star. So he hit this home run in this game that to this day is the farthest home run I've ever seen in person. And I don't know if you remember, but it was just a moonshot, and people kind of felt like it might be coming. So when it happened, it was one of the coolest being at a game experiences I've had. So I think that's my number 1.
And he couldn't hit Knepper, so that was the more.
He just killed it, and you know what? It probably was the longest home run I've ever seen in person because you made me leave the spring training game with Sam. What was it? 1990.
Sam Horn.
We left an inning before Sam Horn hit the furthest home run in the history of Tropicana Field.
I think it was like 87.
He hit it over the field and into the football stadium next door, and we missed it by like 10 minutes because you wanted to get something to eat.
Well,
I'm not over that yet.
It was 15-2 or whatever, and we had things to do and places to go.
It was Sam Horn.
Yeah, who knew?
I kind of knew. I did.
Yes, you did. Yes, I didn't.
All right, my second memory is a short one. Will Ferriss's bachelor party. We were sitting in the upper deck, and he threw up all over the place. That was exciting.
Yeah.
Number 3, Game 1. Was it Game 1 or Game 2 of the 86 World Series, which only I'm allowed to mention. Clemens Gooden, which turned out to be really one of the most dreadful games. Was it Game 1 or Game 2? I think it was Game 2.
Game 2 because Darling was Game 1.
Which turned out to be an awful game, but actually going to it and thinking oh my God, I'm going to see the 2 best young pitchers. These guys could be the next 2 Cy Youngs. We didn't know what the ceiling was for those 2 guys.
Yeah.
And just being there for the build-up of that, the half hour before the game and feeling like something very special was going to happen. That was cool. And then number 4, obviously, when we went to the first interleague game, me, you, and your dad, we wore our jerseys. Mark Clark took a no-hitter, I think, into the 7th inning, and he hit a home run.
And hit a home run, yeah.
And then hit a home run. It was just cool when you take interleague play for granted now, but at the time, the thought of seeing the Mets and Red Sox play a regular season game was like really legitimately exciting. It was something we never thought we'd see again.
Right, great buzz in the stadium.
Yeah, very cool. I almost feel like they should parcel out interleague play now. Like maybe do it like every 2-3 years so it feels more special.
Yeah.
Because now it's just run of the mill. It's like the Mets play the Red Sox. I don't even blink. But in '97, that was cool. All right, let's hear yours.
Boy, there's so many. It's weird because I left for Orlando for college after '85 and didn't come back until '95. So I had a 10-year span there where all the '86 stuff I wasn't even anywhere nearby.
Yeah.
I saw Dave Kingman hit a home run, and we had great seats. We were looking right down the third base line, like 5 rows from the field, and he hit one out in the parking lot in left field that was the furthest ball that I'd ever seen hit in person. My buddy Keith Finney was with us, almost choked on his hot dog when he hit it. I saw Nolan Ryan with the Astros take a no-hitter into like the 7th or 8th inning against the Mets, and Rusty Staub broke it up and got booed.
Got booed by the Mets fans?
Yeah, because the fans wanted to see a no-hitter. And Nolan Ryan was a Met at one point, so.
Yeah.
But we never get to see no-hitters at Shea, so I think people were just rooting for it. Just being there for the 2000 World Series will always be cool for me, even though we lost, just because having grown up and heard about Subway Series and all the time, and my dad being a Brooklyn Dodger fan, to get to actually go to a Subway Series was pretty cool. I never thought that would ever happen in my lifetime.
Yeah, I gotta say that is now underrated, the Subway World Series.
Yeah, and the whole interleague didn't take anything away from it because you just never thought it would ever happen. The Mets and Yankees are hardly ever good at the same time. And to call my dad from the field before the game and say, hey, guess what I'm doing right now? It's batting practice. I'm 10 feet from home plate, and it's a Subway Series game. That was kind of cool.
Yeah.
The one random, personal story I had is my senior year at Brunswick for our senior day. Our whole class went to a Mets-Dodgers game, and we sat way up in the right field seats. And for whatever reason, I used to carry around a Tim Leary baseball card in my wallet because on this particular card, he looked a lot like me, or so I thought.
Yeah.
So the Mets are playing the Dodgers, and Leary's warming up in the bullpen, and I see that he's warming up, so I turn to Rod Armstrong, who's sitting next to me, and I show him, I take out the baseball card, and I say, doesn't this guy look like me? And he says, no, not at all. And right at that moment, Leary is coming in from the bullpen. So I take the card and I just kind of flip it, because Rod has dissed me, and so I just get rid of the card. And so as the PA guy is saying, now pitching for the Dodgers, Tim Leary, this card floats down like 6 rows in front of me and lands in the lap of like an 8-year-old boy who looks at it as, the voice of God is telling him that Tim Leary is now pitching. Tim Leary baseball card has come from nowhere and landed in the kid's lap. So there's somebody out there to this day probably is a huge Tim Leary fan.
Oh, that's a good story.
Yeah, it was one of those weird
I feel like we should go to a commercial so I can reflect on what just happened. That was a good one. So, I'd like to recant my statement that the straw homer was the longest homer I've ever seen in person, because now that I'm thinking about it, do you remember the one that Cecil Fielder hit at Fenway, that he hit actually into the lights and it was almost like The Natural?
No.
I was there for that game. I think that might have been the longest. I'm going to have to think about this some more, but... Yeah. And
then the last one is just because it's Mom. One year for Mother's Day, we asked my mom what she wanted to do, and she said, let's go to the Mets game. So we did, and Darryl Strawberry got his first major league hit.
Oh. Was that Friday night, right?
No, I think it was a Saturday afternoon, like a single to left field kind of thing.
I actually watched Darryl Strawberry's first game. I remember they called him up, and I think it was the same year they got Hernandez, wasn't it?
Yeah, boy. Idiot Mets fan, I should know this. Yeah, I think he came up at the end of '83, but he might have been a few days before he got his first hit.
And I'm going to say the best thing I ever saw at Shea Stadium that I wasn't actually there for, but I saw on TV, was I was watching the Reds-Mets game when Ray Knight beat the hell out of Eric Davis at third base. And I think the entire Reds dugout jumped in, and he was still beating him up. And then the Mets came in. It was
that team liked the fight.
It was a great team.
That's what they need right now. They need someone like Ray Knight who will come in and shake up the clubhouse a little bit and show the guys This is how you play hard. And not that they don't play hard, but they don't have the dirt dog type. They don't have a Pedroia. They don't have a Euclid. That was what was kind of missing the last.
I think that David Wright, Buster had an interesting thing about David Wright about how he wants it too much, and in pressure situations, he almost tries too hard, and that's why he's not coming through. It's never good to have too many guys like that, because the Red Sox had some guys like that once upon a time.
Yeah.
And you always want to have at least a few of the guys, like the dirt dog guys. You definitely want to have one or two guys like Manny, who just they don't know the difference between an October game and an April game.
Right.
And that's kind of the mix you're looking for. The Mets did seem a little uptight to me this year.
I just think he fully realizes he's the face of the franchise kind of guy, and the first guy that all the reporters come to after the game. And but yeah, I mean, there were a lot of weird kind of A-Rod parallels with Wright this year. He put up huge numbers, but he had a good September. He had a great average in September, but he tied for the club record for RBIs in a season. He's going to be remembered for the one they didn't drive in.
Yeah.
But
Johan came through though.
Well, the whole weekend was weird. It was so much like last year. It was scary. You got a dominant pitching performance and a win on the second to last day of the season. Lefty starting pitcher who probably won't be with the team next year took the hill to start the game, and he makes a ridiculous catch. I mean, I was just thrilled we got out of the first inning without 7 runs being on the board like last year. But last year in September, the Mets put the team that they wanted to have on the field, and this year they didn't. Once Wagner went down and Ramon Martinez is starting games at second base and Nick Evans is in left field, to me it doesn't compare to last year just because last year on September 17th, if you said you're winning the division, it was a lock. This year, by no stretch of the imagination, was it a lock. I still thought they were going to go to the playoffs, but this year was only bad because of what happened last year.
Where did you get that Cancel guy? Is he related to Rich Garces?
Robinson Cancel, yeah. I don't know.
I thought it was interesting that he got the hit that saved their season. This 300-pound catcher.
Right, which is, the Mets way. Usually some random guy does something good. But Santana was awesome on Saturday. That was a real treat to watch that. And I said to Tim Kirchin today, I said, here we are gushing over what Santana did and what Sabathia has been doing. And, but guys used to do this all the time. Basically, they're pitching a 4-man rotation.
Yeah.
Which it wasn't that long ago. It wasn't that big of a deal.
And how did Tim Kirchin reply using your Tim Kirchin voice?
Gus, how many times we would have been excited about CC Sabathia doing what he was doing in 1973? 0! This is how the game is played.
Do you worry about this change with the psyche of Mets fans that's really happened since the 2000 World Series? Because this year, I have a couple Mets fans, including you, and you weren't as bad as some of the other ones, but it seemed like the Mets fans were really expecting the worst this year, which was different than the other years.
Well, again, when you lose your closer, and people say, he blew this, he blew that. He was like third in the league in 1, 2, 3 innings this year, and most teams would like to have Billy Wagner closing out. They would have made the playoffs if Billy Wagner was there. So, to me, it was the least fun winning season I think they've ever had because of the way they lost games. I think they lost 8 games when they led by 4 runs or more, 7 of them at Shea Stadium. And they blew 29 saves or whatever it was. So it was just, then there were so many wins that weren't even enjoyable because they were so grueling and they made them more difficult than they had to be. That I think that for me and some of the Mets fans here that I speak to, that was part of it. It was such a grind. That, the 86 team, they just steamrolled over people for the most part. They had their great wins and comebacks and all that, but, when you're not a dominant team and you have to do that day in and day out, it just wears on you. So, but I think that's part of what happened to the team too. It's hard to play those kind of games every day of the season with something hanging over your head, with people asking about it every day. Like when they came out and lost the 6-1 game to the Marlins, that team was just dead down Friday night, and they weren't any better on Saturday, but Johan carried them. The one guy who had 4 days of rest. Everybody else, they scored 5 runs the last 3 games of the year. I think they were just spent.
What's weird about that 86 Mets team? That, they go 108-54.
Yeah.
But if you look at the stats, why have the actual statistics for individual guys gotten so much better? Like we both do What If Sports. The guy, you never can win with a team that's before like 1993.
Right.
For some reason, everybody's whip got better, but everybody's batting average went up, and everybody's on-base average. It's like every conceivable average got bumped, and there's no correlation to each other. But you look at that 86 Mets team, and it's like, how did this team win 108 games? It seems like improbable.
Yeah, well, pitching and timely hitting, but they had guys, who might have hit 270, but they got hits at the right time.
Right. The steals were bad too.
Yeah.
You look at Pedroia now is like 21 for 22 in steals. Like, you never saw that in the mid-'80s. Everybody, got thrown out half the time.
It's like, if you look at Beltran hits 275 every year, scores 100 and drives in 100 every year with, 25 to 35 homers. If he played in the 80s, he'd be an MVP candidate every season with those numbers.
Did you notice the final stats for this year? Like, the home run totals were kind of like out of the Topps baseball cards from the late 70s. Like, Cabrera won with 37.
Yeah, the American League numbers were way down, yeah.
Yeah, I think the NL... down. Who was the NL, like 35?
No, Ryan Howard had 40.
Oh, that's right. Who was the second place guy, though?
But yeah, then it was way down.
It was like Ryan Howard was significantly better than everybody else, but it was just kind of interesting that we're kind of heading back toward the 70s and 80s, but at the same time, no, you don't see like those Omar Moreno stat lines where he steals 80 bases and gets thrown out 45 times.
Right.
People actually steal and they know they're going to steal the base now. Back then it was like you just kind of tried to steal it.
Yeah, no, there was a good column on .com about that yesterday. Torrey Hunter said it definitely has a lot to do with the steroid testing. Mark Teixeira said he feels like the baseballs are softer now than they used to be. But yeah, and some people just said the American League ballparks are bigger. The trend seems to be National League ballparks are small, American League ballparks are big, and all the American League numbers were way down this year. And we're talking like the fewest amount of this since 1992, the fewest amount of this since 1990. All those numbers are way down, so I think there's a lot of different factors. But
well, we're also not seeing those random Brett Boone seasons where all of a sudden Brett Boone's hitting 39 homers, and it comes out of nowhere. He's been in baseball 10 years, and there's no rhyme or reason to why he would have done that, although obviously we wonder now. But doesn't seem like those random aberration seasons happen. People hit the home runs that they should probably hit.
No, and hey, Rice and Wright were 1-2 in the National League in hits. They had 3 of the top 5 guys in RBI and 3 of the top 6 in runs scored. So offensively, the Mets had a fantastic year, but if you don't have the pitching, it's hard to overcome it. So,
who's your NL MVP?
Oh boy, Tim and I were having that discussion today. Rob Tracy from Elias Sports Bureau runs the numbers. There's a lot of different places now that run the numbers that try and figure it out. And like Ryan Howard doesn't make his top 10. Lance Berkman's number 1 based on the numbers. But all I know is I saw what Ryan Howard did for his team in September, and he's still got a lot of good numbers in important places. So I'd be inclined to give it to him. I think you have to at least consider Manny.
Wow.
His numbers were off the charts, and picked up a team that was dead and helped them to win a division. So
hold on, I'm going to chug some gasoline. Just give me 2 seconds here.
I know.
Oh, that's good. All right, that was
but honestly, both leagues, I think you could put 5 names in a hat and pull out a name, and I wouldn't be upset.
Who do you have for the AL?
Across the board, same thing. I mean, I take either guy off the Twins. I don't,
You're not going to believe this, but I've been surprisingly objective about this Dustin Pedroia MVP campaign. It's really hard I watch every Red Sox game. It's really hard for me to believe that I watched the 2008 AL MVP.
Yeah, that one kind of came out of nowhere, like with about 6 weeks to go in the season, and
because he got hot in August.
Yeah.
I'll say this. This will sound weird, but I think the Red Sox had 3 different guys during the season play like an MVP, and that's how they made the playoffs. Like first, J.D. Drew, I can't believe I'm saying this, was amazing and was the MVP of the team probably the first 2 months. Then I think Euclid might have taken over the mantle a little bit, and then as soon as they traded Manny, Pedroia just went to another level. So they probably, out of all those 3 guys, they needed Pedroia the most for when he did it and how banged up the lineup was. But still, it's just weird to think that he's the MVP. But I can't think of another candidate. Or I can't think of a better candidate, I don't know.
Yeah, but that's kind of back to your point about the 80s. Seemed like there weren't that many years where it was clear-cut. Even
you're right.
If Mike Schmidt was hitting 45 home runs, he was also hitting 250, a lot like Ryan Howard. And Stargell and Hernandez split the 1 year. And
I remember when Andre Dawson, when he won the 87 MVP, that was for the same, they just didn't know who to vote for. So give me your 2008 postseason predictions as the longtime producer of Baseball Tonight. Somebody, you badger your baseball guys still, even though you're on ESPN News now.
Yeah.
You still badger all the baseball guys.
Well, I think last year when we did the Madden podcast and you asked me, I had the Mariners and the Cubs, so I'm not exactly a bastion of accuracy here, but I still like the Cubs. I just think that top to bottom they're the best team in the National League. I mean, the Brewers and Phillies I would imagine there'll be a lot of runs scored and all that. And in the American League, I think the Angels. I think their bullpen kind of puts them over the top. And I don't know the Rays, as great as they've been. Right now in the ninth inning, are you really comfortable with the lead?
Yeah, I've never been that impressed by K-Rod. I just feel like you can hit him. And so I don't know. I know his stats are just completely different than Dan Wheeler's, but I think that's a problem for both teams. And honestly, Papelbon hasn't been any great shakes either. For some reason, he just throws fastballs. He doesn't even throw a splitter anymore. So I think it's going to be one of those weird American League playoffs where just a lot of weird stuff happens and some ninth inning rallies, stuff like that. But that David Price guy, I think, is going to be the X factor. If they can really get something out of him, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I need somebody who can pitch the 6th, 7th, 8th innings of 2 playoff games that are close.
That's a lot to ask a guy who's only, but hey, K-Rod did it for the Angels.
Yeah, there's a precedent,
yeah, but not many.
Well, and also, you look at the Red Sox and the Rays, they played 6 times, 3 in, after the Manny trade recently.
Yeah.
3 nail biters of those games, and the Rays won each one. I thought that was interesting. You're not giving me that.
No, that is interesting.
They're kind of built to win 3-2 games, that Rays team. They seem to have a knack for that double in the gap or whatever. It just seems like they win a lot of weird games. And the Red Sox are a lot more comfortable when they're up 10-3. I don't like when we're relying on Masterson and Del Carmen in the 7th, 8th innings. Makes me nervous. Hey, tell your story. Last thing about taking your son to the first game where you thought he was going to sing "Take Me Out to the Ball."
About Shea?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, my 6-year-old Jack, PJ, my 9-year-old, has now been to 4 games at Shea, and they went 1-3. So after our last game this year, as we walked out, he said, "I'm glad they're tearing this place down." he's ready for a new field. My 6-year-old Jack, I don't take my boys to Shea or the Major League game until they're 6 because it's such a process, and it's an hour and a half from here. And symbolically, I didn't start going to games until 1973, and when I was 6. So our first venture this year, we get in the car and we're driving down, and as we get about 10 minutes from the stadium, Jack gets car sick and throws up all over himself. And being the bad dad I am, I didn't think to bring an extra pair of clothes or anything like that. So we had to turn around and go home. At that point, I probably should have known how the season was going to end. You were looking for omens. And then so about a month later, we try it again, and it was the Mets and the Astros. And I went to 2 games this year, and here I saw my brother came up from North Carolina, my brother Jim. We went to our last game together, and Johan gave up a grand slam to Felix Hernandez. All right, and they lost that game to the Mariners.
Yeah.
And then I take my boys to a game against the Astros, and Darren Erstad hits his 2nd home run of the year, and Brad Ausmus hits his 3rd home run of the year. So we didn't see a whole lot of power hitting guys, but the guys who hit home runs against the Mets combined for about 6 home runs this year. So that also tells you the kind of season we had. But the game we take PJ and Jack to, it's a beautiful afternoon game, and Jack, he loves baseball. He knows all the players. He plays my baseball games on video, so he says all the things that the broadcasters say, and he knows the Mets lineup inside out. So this is a big deal for him. So one of the things I'm looking forward to is the 7th inning stretch and us singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game," because Jack really loves that too. So when we get there, I notice it, but I'm not really thinking about it. It's Jewish Heritage Day, and there's all kinds of things going on, but I'm not. It's just part of the day. So we get around to the 7th inning stretch, and the PA guy says, "To honor Jewish Heritage Day, we're now going to sing 'Take Me Out to the Ball Game' in Yiddish." Oh. And I turned to Jack's looking at me like, what does that mean? And I said, he and I just kind of sang our own version. Well, the tune seemed like that was different, and it was just disorienting. And oh man.
So did they have it on the scoreboard, like the Yiddish lyrics?
Yeah, they had like the follow the bouncing ball kind of thing. But what am I gonna do?
That's great.
Yeah, it's so that was Jack's first and last game at Shea.
Well, next year at the new stadium, he can bang out, take me out to the ball game, and you'll probably have nice seats and nice food, nice drinks.
Should be all the amenities. I think it's going to be wonderful. But
are they going to name it?
The stadium?
Yeah,
they already have it. It's Citi Field. It's Citibank, but it doesn't sound like it, so I think it's kind of cool.
So City, but CITI Field?
Yeah. So I think it's got kind of a nice ring to it, and it's basically in the same place as Shea was, so it'll still be easy to get to. And
but how do you shorten Citi Field though? Because like with Shea Stadium, you just call it Shea.
I don't know that you do. I think it's like you always say. There's just like friends who you call by both names.
Yeah, like my friend Nick Aida.
Yeah. So I think it'll just be Citi Field. Many people call it City, but I doubt it. I don't know. Right. It'll be a new home. So home is home. No matter where it is, it's your home.
Well, best of luck at Citi Field next year. Thanks for coming on. And we have to have you back to give your belated Madden review. I did not forget about that.
I'm enjoying beating up on 8-year-olds on online play.
Wait, let's talk about that next time around.
All right.
Gus Ramsey, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Bill.
All right, bye-bye. All right, since the baseball playoffs are starting this week, for the first time ever, hopefully it will be a running tradition, I'm going to have my daughter sing Take Me Out to the Ball Game. Go ahead, do it.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I never get back to root for the Red Sox. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 stretch out of the old ball game.
Yeah. Good job. All right, let's get ready for the baseball playoffs. See you next week on the BS Report.
So I get to sign off. Whoa.
Thank you for downloading the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at Pod Center at ESPNradio.com.
Peace out.